Hey gang, the video you're about to watch is actually a year late. The reasons behind the delay are myriad, most notably among them my health, both physical and mental. Now, rather than point out the obvious inconsistencies scene from scene, let's make a game of it. Look at my weight, how much gray I have in my beard, how tired I look, and try and figure out which scene was shot in what year, and I'll let you know at the end of the video. Also, I need to point out this video deals with some pretty heavy personal stuff, and it can be rather sad at times. So if you're not in the mood for something that's kind of a downer, go ahead and take a break and come back later. Don't worry, this video will still be here when you get back. Where do they go? The needless adaptations from movies to video games. The sloppy translation from celluloid to pixels. They used to dominate home consoles and personal computers, but now, well, where did they go? Well, most of them went to the Android game store. But there was a time long ago when movies you wouldn't expect to get merchandise got the full video game treatment. I'm sure most of you out there would be shocked to find out there were video game adaptations of The Missouri Breaks, Chimes at Midnight, and Fitzcarraldo. I'd be shocked myself, mostly because they didn't. I just lied to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. However, there was one movie that against all odds did end up getting a video game. And that would be Hudson Hawk for the Amiga. Oh, and Nightbreed, that one too, I guess. I mean, why drag this out anymore? I mean, come on. You read the video title. This game is an adaptation of the 1990 fantasy film Nightbreed, directed by Clive Barker and adapted from the novel Cabal by Clive Barker. If you love horror, then you've heard of Clive. He's a novelist, filmmaker, photographer, and painter, best known for mixing elements of the supernatural, Christian and satanic iconography, mysticism, and a heavy dose of eroticism into his work. If I had to sum up Clive Barker's style in a single image, I guess it would be a person having sex with an undead creature in a graveyard. Yeah, this crude sketch will do. By the way, I didn't draw this. Clive did. A few times in his career, Clive Barker has even dabbled in video games, including Undying for the PC, which you can find a lovely video about on Civi11's channel, Clive Barker's Jericho for the PC, PS3, and Xbox 360, which you can find footage of every Wednesday on AEW Dynamite, and the cancelled game Demonic, which you can find footage of in the film Grandma's Boy? Okay. Now you might be wondering, of all the topics to cover and all the video games that have come out, why am I focusing on the video game adaptation of Nightbreed? Well, frankly, I'm doing this entire episode for my friend Zora. Zora was the illustrator who made all those cool monsters in the show's intro, but she was also my best friend, and Gamegrave wouldn't exist without her. Nightbreed was one of her favorite movies, a movie we had conflicting opinions about, sure, but it was the basis for many of our inside jokes. By now you're realizing I'm talking about Zora in the past tense. Zora died in January of 2021. If you watch me on Twitch or you're in our Discord, you're well aware of this fact, but for people new to this channel, just know she was a wonderful person. The sweetest, goofiest, most interesting person I've ever known. Now, I'm not a painter and I'm not a musician. I'm an idiot with a camera who talks about video games. Other than making wrestling music videos, this is all I know how to do, so it's the only way I think I can honor her memory. I thought that the show she helped create should talk about something she loved, even if it's in a roundabout way. And we're close to Halloween, which was Zora's holiday, really. I mean, she drew monsters every day, and she wore Halloween socks in April. She was a lot of fun that way. I mean, Halloween was an everyday year.
Hey, Chris!
Game Ghoul, I'm in the middle of talking about my friend who passed away. Is this important?
Oh, I wanted to say I'm sorry for your loss. You have my condolences, and that the people we love are never really gone if we keep their memories alive.
Well, that was really sweet of you, Game Ghoul. What do you really want?
I'll eat all the ice cream bars you keep in the bathroom, but I'm still hungry.
I don't keep ice cream in the... Game Ghoul, I think you just ate a bunch of bars of soap.
Okay, Dr. Semantics. I ate all the soap that you keep in the bathroom, but I'm still hungry. Give me your PayPal password. I'm gonna order me a French bread pizza.
Okay, the password is...
Turtle House 58. Got it.
Game Ghoul, you're not actually supposed to say it in the video. That's my actual password. You're supposed to, like, put a mosaic over your mouth and use a bleeping sound.
It doesn't matter. No one's gonna watch this show anyway.
So here we have it. Nightbreed the... Oh, this isn't a game. It's an interactive movie? Do I have to cancel the episode now? Well, come on. I think both you and I know that this came out pre-Corpse Killer for the Sega CD32X, so don't expect a ton of movie clips at a stunning 800 by 600 resolution.
I'm death. Plain and simple.
This is going to utilize the best damn pixel art that 1990s DOS machines and the Amiga could handle, and I'm excited to see how Clive Barker's vision was interpreted with a limited color palette. So we jump right into it. It looks like our protagonist is playing peekaboo with his therapist as he's informed he's secretly a serial killer. We have 24 hours to turn ourselves into the cops or else our shrink is going to turn us in himself. I mean, this is an intriguing setup. You know, it could lead to like a car chase sequence while we're evading law enforcement, a shootout. Let's see what the follow through is. What exactly are we looking at? This looks like they adapted the rug that I used to play Hot Wheels on when I was a kid. God, I love that rug. Okay, so when you click on an intersection, your car moves to it. And if you click too many times, your car can run out of gas. It looks like our goal is to reach the hospital so our man can get some professional psychiatric help. Despite the fact you just left a therapist's office. I mean, maybe the goal of the game is to get a second opinion. I mean, maybe we're not a serial killer. Is this the entire game? I thought this was meant to be an interactive movie. This feels like Red Hook's Revenge without the educational trivia. Is the movie it's based on like this? Just the opening credit sequence from The Shining filmed from a satellite? In this phase of the gameplay, your only real opposition are blockades ran by the cops. If you decide to run those blockades, it's kind of a flip of a coin. You either get out completely unscathed, or they damage your car. Your car expresses vehicular damage via a popped tire and moving very, very slowly. The trip to the hospital will now take minutes longer, and you can potentially run out of gas to get there.
I've had about enough of this foolery.
So I go to the hospital where I'm confronted by a Warcraft 2 troll. He tells me there's a place where the crazies can be crazy, called Midian. We get over the fact that our nipples look like milk duds, and we decide to steal a car that suspiciously looks just like our last car, and we go on a quest to find the secret hidden realm of Midian. Shouldn't be hard to find, there are only 3 locations in this game, and we've been to 2 of them. I like how Midian isn't even hidden. It's off camera, yeah, but our main character must be able to see it from where he's standing because there's just an option to go there. But I'm gonna check out this cool graveyard first. Oh no, the rarest of personas, a horseshoe crab. Also, I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. The art for the characters in this game is inconsistent. Right now, our main character looks like he's a Cabbage Patch doll, fitting since he's hanging out with the Garbage Pail Kid equivalent of Mac Tonight, which I believe they just called Internet Racist. It's then that you are bitten by the evil, monstrous Pelican.
Pelican fly! Come on, Pelican!
The monster lunges forward, sinking his teeth in the Boone's neck, giving him a near-fatal wound. It is then that Boone must run for his life.
Run for his life in place.
This is the interactive movie, folks, and it plays like caveman games for the NES. You're basically just mashing buttons while this meathead jogs away.
Nice catch, Blanco Nino. But too bad your ass got sacked.
Okay, learned my lesson. I'm going to investigate the second disc, I guess. Lori has been mutilated by the mask. Overcome with remorse, you flee Midian straight into the arms of the Sons of the Free. Who are the Sons of the Free? Who's Lori? She was mutilated by the mask? Why didn't somebody stop him? So we're just introduced to a supporting character, had her killed off screen by an unknown antagonist, and then introduced a secondary antagonist, all with the... I have to switch discs again? Just for that one scene? Thanks for nothing, Merlin! Without you, the Nightbreed were doomed and wiped off the face of the earth. Well, good. Fuck the Nightbreed. That one dude tried to eat me. I've met 2, maybe 3 of them, and they were all pretty much pricks. Why should I care? That's not rhetorical. Video game, please explain to me, why should I care? I've got nothing. None of this makes sense.
Now, considering this is billed as an interactive movie, I didn't assume I'd have to do any extracurricular work to understand what's going on. It kind of reminds me of the time my friend told me that I would like the Star Wars prequels more if I read the Extended Universe books before seeing them. Sorry, but I don't think an inherent knowledge that General Grievous had a rough childhood is going to make me like Revenge of the Sith more, Graham. So to understand any of this, we're going to have to do one of 2 things. 1, we have to watch Nightbreed, or 2, we gotta read the book Cabal that Nightbreed is based off of. I did both. Well, actually I read the book, then I watched the theatrical cut of the movie, then the director's cut of the movie several times over, and then I watched a documentary on the making of the movie. That's right. This is a show called Game Grave, and I'm talking about a movie. We're only 2 episodes in, and I've already betrayed your expectations. I mean, for all you know, this might not even be a real grave. This could all be made of styrofoam. Let's get this out of the way. Spoiler warning, top to bottom. I'm sure you've noticed the length of this video by now, and you've seen videos on the internet like this. I'm going to be talking about the entirety of the film, because as the film relates to the game, there's this tricky little word called context. And putting the game into context in a short video proved to be challenging. See, I've rewritten the script for this thing probably half a dozen times. There was a version that just talked about the game. It was 4 minutes long and none of it made sense. So then I tried to pare it down to like 20 or 30 minutes. But to do that, I had to cut out all critique, analysis, and what hurt the most, I had to cut out all my dumb jokes, which writing jokes is the only reason I make the show.
Since when did you start writing jokes?
That's low-hanging fruit, Game Ghoul.
You know what else is a low-hanging fruit?
What?
Lemon.
Now, I'm going to focus mainly on the director's cut of this film because, barring the rumored 3-hour cut that just vanished off the internet one day and the TV show that's still in production, the director's cut seems to be the closest thing to Clive Barker's original vision. I'll chime in with any drastic dissimilarities between the different versions of the movies as well as dissimilarities from the book. I'll also chime in with how certain things are interpreted in the game, which, well, you'll see. We kick off with a freaky dream sequence teaser, a POV shot of someone desperately trying to escape a Susie and the Banshees concert. This is Boone and Laurie. Boone apparently is tormented by nightmares of a place called Midian, filled with monsters. He mentions that he's troubled that he's not as scared of these dreams as he once was, and part of him is beginning to even like it. Then why even bring it up, movie? At this point, he's just more annoyed than tormented. You know, hanging out with monsters isn't that bad of a recurring nightmare. I mean, I have a recurring nightmare where I'm stuck in a bathroom the size of a football stadium. That's true, by the way. I have no idea what that symbolizes. We then get a peek of average Canadian life. I guess I should mention that the entirety of this film takes place in Canada, which really ratchets down the tension considering how polite Canadians are supposed to be. By the way, one of those Canadians canoodling on the couch is Captain Hollister from Red Dwarf, so if you're playing BBC Bingo, go ahead and put him on the board. I'm hoping that we get a cameo from Delboy Trotter, or Sawed-Off Baldric, or Hyacinth Bouquet, or Captain Peacock, or even Arthur Two-Sheds Jackson. Though seeing how the rest of the monsters in this movie are designed, we're gonna get Nosy Bonk if anybody.
Sweetie, you're supposed to be Betty Buys.
I heard something.
What did you hear, honey?
A bad man.
Okay, so a similar scene like this one happens in the first Saw movie. And in both films, the parents just dismiss the idea that a bad man is in their child's room. Not the boogeyman, a bad man. Parents, if your kids ever tell you there's a bad man in their room, leave. Grab your kid, get in the car, and leave. Because Richard Ramirez was a bad man, but he was real as hell. Tex Watkins was real. Albert Fish, Dennis Rader, John Wayne Gacy, all of them were pretty bad men, but all of them were pretty real. And you know, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a bad man. Any man hanging out in your child's bedroom is going to be trouble, even if they're as pleasant as Tony Hawk. Hell, even if they are Tony Hawk. Oh, and then the nice Canadian family gets brutally murdered by Sackboy. I'm starting to think this thing about Canadians being polite is just a myth, because that's not very nice. This is actually one of the only scary scenes in this movie, as a child helplessly watches his death slowly approach him, tears falling down his face in stunned silence.
so expect a bit of a tonal shift when Boone meets the Muppets later on.
Are we back in therapy, Doctor? They were just dreams. Midian doesn't exist. Monsters don't exist.
But murder does, Aaron. Murder is very, very real.
This is Boone's former therapist, Dr. Decker, and he's apparently been trying to get in touch with Boone all week, presumably to ask Boone if he ever got around to watching Dead Ringers.
Now I'm going to make an assumption here that the average person wouldn't be able to identify acclaimed body horror film director David Cronenberg on sight alone. But for the sake of this video, why don't we all pretend that we all have an encyclopedic knowledge of horror movies and that last joke was really funny. In fact, if you want, leave a comment below saying that you knew that was Cronenberg and that you find it insulting that I had to stop the video to tell you. And I'll give you a little thumbs up. It'll be like our little inside joke.
Boone tells Decker that he's actually cured now. He doesn't need therapy, and he actually quite likes having dreams where he gets to meet the Ariel monsters. But on the contrary, Decker tells Boone that he's been blacking out and destroying hockey's core demographic, so Boone needs to turn himself in. Turn himself into a street pancake.
Take it easy.
Okay, so he just gets a bump on the noggin and he goes to the hospital. And it's here where he meets Narcissi, which I believe is Greek for comic relief sidekick. Boone overhears Narcissi mention Midian. He demands to know its location, and Narcissi obliges. Before Boone sets off for Midian, Narcissi starts ripping his goddamn face apart. Dude, what do you want me to do with that? I'm not gluing that shit back on. Now in the book, Narcissi rips off his human face to reveal a more bestial monster face beneath, but Clive just got done shooting 2 movies with faceless people, so Narcissi, in a bit of a compromise, rips everything off but his face. He rips like the general mutton chop area. Wait, this scene right here is what you based 90% of the gameplay on? Did they just turn the movie off after this? Did they think this was the whole movie? Did they fall asleep? Is a 3-hour Cabal cut that's going around just an hour and a half of Boone driving? Boone, like most of us in this situation, decides he's gonna take a quick graveyard nap. But when he awakens, he's ambushed by the Zoobly Zoos.
Move and I'll slit your throat. Holy shit.
It's true.
Everything's true. God's an astronaut. Oz is over the rainbow. And Midian's where the monsters live.
What? What?
Gang, I can't even make a joke about this. I don't get. When has anyone ever alleged that God was an astronaut?
Is there some cultural touchstone I've missed out on? Is this some amazing deep cut that I just don't get? If you Google God is an astronaut, all you get is a band from Ireland that's named after this quote from Nightbreed. Just like in the game, Boone gets bit. There's a chase sequence, albeit a more active one, and then our hero comes face to face with the Calgary police. They followed Boone here because Narcissi is a snitch. However, they did bring along Boone's psychiatrist so he can help de-escalate the situation.
He's got a gun! Go! Open fire!
This plays out very similar in the game, except instead of David Cronenberg, it's Harold Ramis, and they shoot you for torrenting Ghostbusters 2. Boone's corpse is remanded to the morgue, but Something about Peliquin's bite fills Boone's corpse with swirling energy, and Boone gets up and escapes the hospital off camera in the most cartoonish way possible. This scene is somehow actually less comical in the video game. I mean, come on, Clive, this is some Toxic Avenger level schlock. In a film full of matte paintings, you chose to go with this backdrop? Did he escape into Toontown? I'm surprised he didn't leave a Boone-shaped hole in the wall. Meanwhile, at Gabe Newell's house, Dr. Decker has a bit of a pity party.
Midian, I live forever.
So it turns out that Decker is actually the serial killer. By this point in the movie, you pretty much know that's what's going on, but if you watch the director's cut, you actually know before he kills the pack of maple syrup chugging flannel enthusiasts. It's one of the additional scenes that actually makes the movie worse, in my opinion.
Now, this is my own personal interpretation, so bear with me. But this scene confused me when I first saw it. Boone still being alive is a loose end when it comes to Decker's crimes, sure, but he seems to be upset about Midian itself existing. And you would think a serial killer would be psyched to find out that flesh-eating monsters are real. Serial killers often refer to themselves as monsters. David Berkowitz would refer to himself as Mr. Monster, which, not considering its grisly origin, would make for a great sitcom title. But Decker should really look at these monsters as his contemporaries.
Well, Decker sees himself as a bit of an exterminator. He hates people and expresses that by annihilating entire families. Decker finds joy in destroying something utterly. He sees himself as death, and death as a finality. The idea of life after death, especially one so concrete as Midian that exists on the same earthly plane as his, invalidates what he considers his great work. He takes joy in framing Boone and seeing him killed, and knowing Boone is still out there as not only a loose end that can come back to haunt him, it also taunts him with his own violent impotence.
In the book, Decker just likes to come.
Decker pulled the mask on. It smelled of his excitement. As soon as he breathed in, he got hard. Not the little sex hard, but the death hard, the murder hard. It sniffed the air for him, even through the thickness of his trousers and underwear. So now we come to Laurie's side of the adventure, and more overhead shots of driving! I think I owe the makers of the game an apology. Laurie commiserates with a random woman she meets at a bar, and then convinces this perfect stranger to go with her to a creepy graveyard to maybe find the person that stole her serial killer boyfriend's corpse. Because pity is more powerful than an atom bomb. Laurie's new friend, Cheryl Ann, tells her to go to bed since she intends to pull some strange once the crying wreck of a woman stops killing the vibe. And right on time, an unseen stranger buys her a drink, one she calls the picture of sophistication. Your hunch is right. It's Tobe Hooper.
Now, this is the part of the book that becomes more about Laurie. It becomes more about her dealing with grief, sexual frustration, and betrayal. In many ways, Cabal is about grief, about being unable to let go of someone when they die, and the obsession people fall into when a loved one is lost.
Other than Laurie's internal monologue, these themes mostly play out in conversations between Laurie and Cheryl Ann. Sadly, most of which are taken out of even the director's cut, and all are removed from the theatrical.
Laurie is actually the sole focus for a long stretch of the story. Cabal is a novella, and thus it didn't have a poster, so you didn't know that this book was going to end up being about underground undead monsters. Boone's apparent death made way for Laurie hypothetically becoming the central protagonist. Laurie's character is interesting because almost everything she does is in a state of shock and bewilderment. She's in grief over losing Boone, but also feels guilty because there's a good chance he was actually a serial killer. It's the guilt of missing someone who doesn't deserve to be missed by someone. She investigates Boone's death out of a pure sense of curiosity, a compulsion, and also because she keeps having erotic dreams where she has sex with corpse dust. This is still a Clive Barker book. Coffin dust and human ash and bone pounded to bits, all blown to Midian and catching her at the crossroads. She felt the dead inside her, behind her lids, in her throat, carried up toward her womb.
I'm looking for a place called Midian.
You're not the only one. Bunch of TV news folk passing through. Just as they nailed that baby slasher up there.
Baby slasher?
Yeah, been a hell of a week for us. Took 30 shots to bag that sucker.
Now, I don't dislike the actress's interpretation of Laurie. I think she's actually quite good in the role. I think the differences from the book actually come more from screen time than characterization. Movies aren't books, and the rules for storytelling differ with each. Movies are normally much shorter than even novellas are, and dual protagonists normally give way to a lead and a support. But with a chunk of Laurie's story missing, something's missing from the movie. Part of its soul is gone. But this movie is about Boone, so while Cheryl Ann is getting plowed by a mysterious stranger who may or may not have directed Videodrome, we cut to Narcissi explaining to Boone that down here, he's the cool one and Boone is the fucking nerd. It is then that Boone must pass the rite of the Nightbreed and be baptized in the blood of their patron god, Baphomet.
The blood of Baphomet.
And these are the eyes of Baphomet. And this is his hair. Wait a minute, is Boone not blindfolded? This only works if he's blindfolded. Who fucked this up? Sideburns, I'm looking at you. You know, I'll say it. I actually really like the actor that plays Narcissi. Some of the creatures down in Midian give the impression they've been there for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, while this is some crunchy dipshit who probably listens to the Butthole Surfers. I guess I also need to point out that 3 of the 4 Cenobites from Hellraiser are in this room right now. The room in the movie, not my room. They're not actually in my room. I'd probably be screaming if they were in here with me. Like if they crossed the bounds of time and fiction, and they were like torturing me while I was recording. I doubt I'd be this calm. Oh, and also, one of the people that helped Kirsty's dad move is also in the room. In the movie. It shouldn't be shocking that Doug Bradley's in this film, considering Clive Barker has known him since high school. Repeat. Clive Barker has known Pinhead since they were teenagers. But that's not too unheard of. People tend to artistically collaborate with their close friends. Look at the Raimi brothers and Bruce Campbell. They went to college together. Lance Henriksen, he's actually married to the animatronic puppet from Pumpkinhead. Oh, you're probably wondering why I'm not cutting to more footage of the game right now. I promise you, I will when it becomes relevant again. But you're going to be shocked with how little that happens. Laurie and Cheryl Ann make their way to Midian, and Cheryl Ann waits in the car while Laurie goes off to explore the labyrinth.
Bring her. Please bring her.
Laurie spies some kind of wounded animal, getting closer to see it's a strange, almost human creature. She attempts to save this Mac and me by giving it to a friendly Roma stereotype, I mean Nightbreed. The woman is named Rachel, and this
creature is changing and morphing, turning into a little girl named Babette. It turns out this random Canadian woman here just happened to stumble upon a secret ancient city of the undead. Laurie, now aware that monsters and the undead exist, has a hunch that maybe Boone's body is here, or maybe Boone is even alive here. They tell her that by even knowing about their secret underground lair, she's put everyone in grave danger, pun intended. She insists on knowing where Boone is, so they tell her to fuck off.
You'll come back now, you hear?
That's what you went for? Quoting the Beverly Hillbillies? I mean, seriously, this is how you want to waste your screen time? This is how you're etching your name along the great monsters of cinema? Regurgitating other people's catchphrases? What if other horror icons did that, huh?
Not the mama! His own day of reckoning with himself. The idea is that destiny is a very real, concrete thing that every person. Not the mama!
Here's Johnny!
Oh wait, that one's real.
Cheryl, we're going. Something's kind of come up. Oh my
God. Oh no, Cheryl Ann is dead. It turns out Decker was just using her to lure out Laurie in the hopes of using Laurie to lure out Boone, and he had no intention of introducing Cheryl Ann to Mel Brooks. As Decker attempts to kill Laurie, Boone wishes to help her, but he's informed that it is against the ancient laws of the breed to go topside. Their existence is supposed to be surreptitious, despite 3 different people, almost 4, discovering their secret society over the course of a weekend. Boone then beats up Mike Starr before cheesing it. He comes across Dr. Decker and decides to dispatch his former therapist by unleashing his inner monster in the form of battle-damaged Boone with removable decals. The book makes it sound like Boone is some indescribable beast, while this is just him getting a Sharpie and going ape on his face.
For who could ever learn to love a beast?
How does this play out in the game? Evil Otto in an ill-fitting suit shows up and he starts flicking steak knives at you. You can dodge the knives by moving the mouse around. However, this section's in first person, which means what you're actually doing is just looking away from the knives as they come sailing towards you. This brings up an interesting question. Can a knife hurt you if you refuse to acknowledge it?
And remember, no one can hurt your feelings without your permission, and that goes double for stabbings.
Because Narcissi is a pervert, Decker gives Boone the slip. Luckily, Boone's pal Jason was just stopping by for a visit, so the problem is quickly resolved. Laurie awakens in the game grave. I'm actually to the right of the camera in this scene, you just can't see me. And the little cat creature girl uses her dead zone power to tell Laurie of the secret history of the Nightbreed, of the war between monsters and humanity that drove them deep underground. The Nightbreed were forced by religious zealots to reenact Legacy of Kain cutscenes, and it's then that Laurie comes to the realization that maybe humans are the real monsters. Laurie then stumbles around Midian. Oh God, never mind. These people are real monsters. I take back everything I just said. Is he eating a dude?
There goes the neighborhood.
So this is the line that was most quoted between Zora and me. Or rather, I quoted it at her to make fun of her. At this very moment, while watching this film, a lot of us kind of rolled our eyes, and I believe my sister audibly said, "Oh, fuck you, movie." This is what we call a camp litmus test. If your bar for shenanigans in your horror movies is above this, then you probably just want to turn the video off now. This is almost a Freddy Krueger moment. As for me, I don't know, I kind of like stupid, goofy horror. I mean, Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is one of my all-time favorite characters, if that tells you anything about my personal tastes.
Hey, lick my plate, you dog dick!
As Lori looks for Boone, we finally get our first proper look at Midian and its denizens. And this is the scene the film was made for. Just shot after shot of fantastical looking creatures lurking through darkened catacombs. Hey kids, it's time to meet the Nightbreed! Close shave. Orc and the unlucky softball player. Thanksgiving. Rude people! What the fuck? Goat Boy. Pagliacci the Clown and his boyfriend, the literal Christian devil. Tiny cat-faced man. Tiny cat-faced woman. Skimble Shanks the railway cat. Sable Abel. Shirtless man. Bubo the Clown. The Unknown Comic. Robert. Dan Aykroyd. Pasta Fazool. The Johnson Triplets. That's just a blind dude playing solitaire. Is he supposed to be down here? Does he know he's roommates with all these monsters?
Hey, you can't go down there. The berserkers are down there. They'll rip off your head and shit down your neck.
I'll rip your head off and shit down your neck.
So Duke Nukem was quoting Nightbreed? Duke Nukem's favorite movies are Army of Darkness, They Live, and Nightbreed. I think Duke Nukem should look a lot less like this, and a lot more like this.
Oh, he's quoting Full Metal Jacket. Okay, I take it back. I mean, Full Metal Jacket is a fine film, but it's far from being the favorite Kubrick flick of nerds like me. That, of course, would be Barry Lyndon, because I love a movie that takes 4 hours to say absolutely nothing.
You had best unfuck yourself, or I will unscrew your head and shit down your neck!
Wait. He says unscrew your head. Does this mean the meme got it wrong? Urban Dictionary got it wrong? Or did we all just get Mandela affected mid-video? Should one of us go check and see if they changed it back to the Bernstein Bears? Gang, there's a very good chance that Duke Nukem is actually quoting...
I'm gonna rip your head off and shit down your neck.
This forgettable jingoist Clint Eastwood movie.
Ah! I'm gonna rip your head off and shit down your neck!
Okay, I get it.
I'll rip your fucking head off and shit down your neck, okay?
Yeah, okay, Devilman, I get it.
I am going to rip off your head and shit down your neck.
Come on, we don't need to put Dr. Detroit up in my Nightbreed video. I get it, I understand. A permutation of his line exists in every single property in every form of media.
Wait, does that mean we have to record a version of the line now? Game Ghoul, did you want to do the honors?
I'm gonna cut off your hair and poop at your house.
That's good enough.
Lori tangles with these sewer mutants and sadly learns too late that these turtle boys won't cut her no slack. Luckily, she is saved from the berserkers by this impishly whimsical chap, who leads her straight to Boone. This entire time, Boone has actually been pleading his case to the god of Midian, the god of the Nightbreed, a giant glowing statue known as Baphomet.
Look, that's how they pronounce it in the movie, okay? Baphomet. I've heard Satanists pronounce it Baphomet or Baphomet, but I'm gonna go with how Clive wanted it pronounced. It's not a personal slight. Any Satanists out there, I'm not trying to offend you. Please, please don't use your most powerful sacred weapon on me, podcasters.
Decker stops at a local convenience store, presumably to pick up Slim Jims, and then he asks this elderly character actor behind the desk if he can borrow his phone. He intends to call the cops to let them know that the Nightbreed are holding a monster mash without a permit. They're playing the Transylvania Twist at all hours, and he needs to work in the morning. He's a doctor, damn it! After Dr. Decker presumably leaves, the shopkeep stumbles around the set of Ernest Scared Stupid before the mask re-enters and ambushes the old guy.
Nightbreed? Can they die?
What harm they ever done to you?
Can they die?
So wait a minute, this old coot is actually friends with the Nightbreed? I mean, it makes sense. He's probably used to hanging out with underground freaks. That's a Mole People joke. That's John Agar. He was in Mole People.
I've cleaned up a lot of breeders. Families like cesspools. Filth making filth making filth. And I did it over and over and over again.
Ah, so there's the cum I was talking about earlier.
Decker's orgasmic delivery here pretty much mimics how he is in the book, even though this scene was invented for the film. He's a man motivated by destruction, and then that destruction culminates with him shooting a big load in his pants, which, believe it or not, is the modus operandi for most serial killers.
Boone is understandably shaken by his meeting with God, and him and Lori escape Midian and right into a trap orchestrated by Decker. Decker is not only working with the Calgary police, but also with Captain Eigerman of the Sheerneck Police Department, Sheerneck being the small town closest to Midian. Eigerman is essentially every small town cop stereotype rolled into one overtly fascist package, a man bubbling with resentment, impatience, narcissism, xenophobia, homophobia, misogyny, and a penchant for violence that's borderline psychosexual. I would say he is a cartoonish depiction of police officers if it wasn't for the fact he is a completely accurate depiction of police officers. Eigerman sends Goon Squad Alpha to check out Midian, and they happen to murder the dude whose only supernatural power is he dies when exposed to the sun. This lets the cops know the horrible truth. Midian is full of the Irish. The gang recruit a drunken priest so that God can be on their side during their holy war, and then we get a rundown of the arsenal of a small town that has less than 100 people. Again, Clive Barker's depiction of cops is the most realistic aspect of this film. In the game, we briefly get introduced to the cops of Sheerneck via Decker tattling on you, and it looks like the Sheerneck Police Department are on the lookout for the Lego spaceman. We even mimic the arsenal scene, and look, I know the cops of Sheerneck are a pretty obvious warning of the militarization of law enforcement, as well as a condemnation of the inherent systemic bigotry of police forces, but I will agree with them on one thing. Fuck Ed. Ed's a dickhead. Hate that guy. Also, oh. Is that supposed to say America? Because it looks like it says America. I was joking before, but the people who made this game didn't watch the fucking movie, or even read the goddamn book. They just made a video game completely based off the production stills they saw in Fangoria. This would be like if I made a video game based on what I heard about of Eat, Pray, Love, or some other movie that macho tough guys like me avoid seeing. Hey, remember earlier when I admitted I watched Barry Lyndon? For fun. Narcissi and Rachel pick up Lori and they go on to rescue Boone, all while a cop, a priest, and a therapist plan their assault on a group of people shunned by polite society. Have you guessed what the Nightbreed are a metaphor of yet? Are you starting to understand the subtext of the film? You know, not to change the subject, but you ever just look at the title of the film? You know, if you want to shorten it down, you could just refer to it as NB. There you go, NB. Isn't that neat? Narcissi beats up the cops, Rachel uses nudity as a weapon and smoke powers, and Lori saves Boone. They celebrate by having a quick makeout sesh as Narcissi makes rude remarks.
No time for hoochie coochie.
Oh, he read the book.
One of the biggest departures from the book is that the movie isn't NC-17. At times, the book can be erotic, as the work of Clive Barker is wont to be, but at other times the book is straight up pornographic. You might think I'm being hysterical, but...
Boone was unzipping himself. She took his length in her hand. Now it was his turn to sigh as she ran her fingers along the underside of his erection, up from his balls to where the ring of his circumcision scar bore a nugget of tender flesh. And I don't feel comfortable reading the rest out loud. I just now realized all my friends can hear me read this. While fucking does or doesn't happen, Midian explodes.
We are too late.
Boone and company launch a rescue mission, and then we go back to the video game. I know, it's been a while, right?
This is the rest of the game. You wander hallways looking for the Chamber of Baphomet. When you turn a corner, instead of just cutting to a new background, the new location is thrown on the screen until you have a unwieldy stack of Polaroids. You control where you go by clicking the compass, and you also have a run button and a fight button for when you're accosted by humans. This has to be the ugliest UI I have ever seen in a video game. Full stop. I've seen Flash games where you fuck the cast of Star Fox that has better UI than this. You know the one I'm talking about. If Boone comes across a cop, and wow, they actually made them look like pigs, he has an opportunity to fight them. But watch out, Boone. The cops happen to know Super Ultra Mambo Tango Foxtrot martial arts. There's also a mini-game where you have to avoid being bitten by the sky manta, which somehow looks way more ridiculous in the film. And there's also a mini-game where you have to avoid being shot in the fucking face by a gun. Being a Nightbreed means Boone is immune to bullets until he isn't.
Don't you get it? Blades are no better than bullets.
Also, in this chunk of gameplay, we get more Boone art inconsistencies. He goes from looking like Hank Hill to having Super Saiyan Trunks hair. And this one might just be me, but he kind of reminds me of Bill Pullman in this scene.
If you want to live, it won't be here, and it won't be by your laws. Now, if we want to survive, we've got to fight back. We can't hide anymore.
Boone convinces the Nightbreed to stand up for themselves. Midian is pretty much done for, but they should really kill a few Proud Boys on their way out. They don't have weapons, so he arms them in the style of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. As the Sons of the Free gun down the employees of Spirit Halloween, Our priest character has a change of heart.
You're killing children!
Go ahead, faggot.
Do you understand the subtext of this movie yet? Here, let me help you.
Captain, I just saw the new Pixar movie and there's a scene where two Nightbreed are kissing!
My God. It's the end of Western civilization as we know it.
Eigerman's about to blow the priest away, but Boone saves him with a sweet dropkick. The priest wishes to see the god of the Nightbreed now, because he's starting to suspect the Abrahamic god might just be some astronaut.
The priest is probably the most different from his book counterpart. In the book, he's not a psychopath or a drunk, rather, he's just an individual that enjoys cross-dressing, and Eigerman is blackmailing them.
Oh, what the heck? That guy wasn't even a monster. He just had an impacted wisdom tooth. The monsters start to fight back, some of them using worms that live in their stomachs that rip out people's eyeballs, and some of them using raw sexuality. All you DeviantArt kids need to know right now, this is realistically what would happen to you if you tried to top Sonic the Hedgehog.
We're not warriors. What about the berserkers? Madness. They're uncontrollable. Better yet, let them out. We are the tribes of the moon. You said so. The tribes of the moon.
Boone releases the berserkers, and it's time for Mutant League football!
Meanwhile, back in the game... No, not that game, the Nightbreed one.
Boone wanders the cave, looking for Nightbreed to save. And that's when we come to it, the platforming section. To change floors in the labyrinth that is Midian, you have to suffer through this platforming section. You have no in-air control of your jump once you make it, and you have to have pixel-perfect precision to make it on one of these small ledges. The ledges also disintegrate. If Boone hits one of the walls during his jumps, you bounce off of it as though it was made of flubber, and you tumble down back to the bottom. And if you tumble down too many times, it's game over. This is actual torture. If you stream this on Twitch, it's against the terms of service. If you show this to kids, someone's gonna call CPS. If the Cenobites watch you play this, they will get off to it. I'll be honest, I'm just glad they didn't make a Nightbreed game that was just this platforming and the insipid hand-to-hand fighting. Except that they did. That's right. Nightbreed is a franchise. Hey everyone, look, it's my favorite interpretation of Clive Ball's Cabarker. This game solely focuses on the battle for Midian, basically just filling in the gaping hole that was left in the interactive movie. Midian is in the process of burning down, and it's up to Boone to save both his girlfriend and the breed. However, some of the berserkers have gotten loose in all the chaos, and this game's interpretation of the berserkers is, well, Barf Goblin, Ghoulfly, Face Snake, Terry Bull, this absolutely yoked out Gorgon who gets pissed when you knock his head off. I'm gonna call him Robert. Yeah, it's another Robert. It's a popular name. A Scorpion with the head of Telly Savalas.
Who loves you, baby?
Bad Balls, Gwyneth's Goop, Grandma Hog, I get wanting to have more diversity in the Berserkers instead of having them be a bunch of lumpy Goombas, but I think you could have done this in a way that didn't make them look like the fucking Claymates. Like, look at the spring-heeled goober here, huh? I don't think he looks very Nightbreed, do you? You do? Well, fuck off. Sorry, look, I'm just mad. This game is not very fun, and it's been a long day, and I think I have bronchitis. As far as Boone's arsenal goes, he has an impressive long jump, your standard punch, and a kick whose reach and speed pretty much makes the punch irrelevant. So just use the kicks. Just imagine Boone knows karate in this one. Kind of like how Tommy Jarvis knew judo in Friday the 13th Part 5, but then somehow forgot about it in Friday the 13th Part 6. The cops you fight can stun lock you with their moves, which include punches, machine guns, flamethrowers, and bazookas. Every now and then you can pick up a pistol power-up from a downed officer, and it lets you dispatch the cops quicker, until Stuart Little here steals it from you. The Berserkers, though, well, they're immune to bullets. Some of them are just immune to any damage whatsoever, and they can send you flying across the screen with a single punch. But the biggest enemy, well, that would have to go to the stage hazards. Imagine Kevin McAllister hated you. And now imagine he ascended into godhood. Kevin simply became one with the universe, his soul inhabiting every atom within our reality, kind of like the ending of Yardawaski's version of Dune. The stage hazards are a cavalcade of traps that spawn wherever they want at any time, which is all times and all wheres. Basically, the screen is just full of junk that constantly attacks you. The junk can hit you while you're climbing, hit you while you're fighting, and it generally leads to a Rue Goldbergian slapstick-style situation. And the game is tough. It's not fun either, which makes the difficulty more obnoxious. You're being attacked from all sides by every single pixel of the screen. Luckily, the game does have a password system so you can pick up your progress. The passwords themselves are written on the walls of each section. However, since you're going up and down and up and down and up and down again, sometimes you'll write down the wrong password and start off worse than where you left off. The actual passwords on the walls stay consistent, and they don't upgrade as you progress through the game. It also doesn't help that the game has no intention of pointing you towards your goal. Level design in action and adventure games is so important, especially back in the day. The designers needed to use different elements such as background art, stage decoration, as well as the placement of both enemies and items to subtly shepherd the player without making it too obvious that they were being led. Each room in the game needs to be distinct enough that you start to learn the layout of a level. But this game is hindered by enemies constantly spawning in, repetitive use of similar stage elements and backgrounds, and just a constant barrage of visuals at all times. If you play long enough, you eventually learn where things are, but normally you're too busy trying to avoid flying what's-it, falling debris, and falling cops. I do like how this guy is threatening to kick your ass even as he's falling to his death. Okay, so here's the entire game. You make your way down to the bowels of Midian and talk to Baphomet. He tells you to release the film-accurate Berserkers, and you do so after fighting Dr. Decker.
You can die.
Holy shit, Decker just hit Boone with a top rope senton out of nowhere. You then go upstairs to free the Berserkers, and we get this cutscene. Decker has Lori. The what? You then have to make your way back down again to fight Decker, and he turns into Lori. Now that's a twist I didn't see coming. It's a real departure from the book. You then make your way up and out of Midian so that you and Dr. Lori can live happily ever after, ? I now understand why this game is so hard. It's because there's nothing there content-wise. If random shit didn't fall on you from the ceiling, if monsters couldn't throw you like a football, and if you knew where you were going, the game would be, much like the other game, about 4 minutes long. Now, this is how a lot of games were back in the day, extending the playtime through difficulty alone. But some of those other old games were fun. They had fun mechanics that made you enjoy interacting with them. I feel like if this game was shorter, it would actually be putting us out of our misery. Things I liked about the game. Backgrounds are fun, bright, colorful graphics, this credit picture, the Tom Goes to the Mayor stills. Things I didn't like. Well, the UI for one. Boone is a werewolf with a beauty mark because Craig Sheffer apparently is an SCP with anti-memetic properties, and no one can remember what he looks like the moment you stop looking at him. The music isn't properly looped. The sound effects are annoying and out of place and constant. Actually, I don't like anything about this game, even the stuff I said I did like. It's pure garbage. This game makes me like the movie less. It makes me like myself less. It's a miserable time.
And that's all I really gotta say about this awful game. Official Hint Keeper, did you want to give the audience at home any hints in case they want to play Nightbreed the action game for themselves?
No.
Really, man? You got nothing?
I mean, if you have to play it. I don't know, find the ROM file that has the infinite lives cheat built in. And you could beat it quicker that way, I guess.
Don't you normally give like a funny joke hint?
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it today, honestly. That game was just so bad, it took the wind out of my sails, and I just kind of don't want to be here anymore, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Did you want to talk about the movie with me for a bit then?
Not really. I'm just gonna take a nap.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, let's go back and check out the actual battle for Midian in the film and see how that's going. And hopefully there's gonna be less vomit. The Bigot Brigade now has to fight actual monsters instead of theater kids, and now they're not doing so well. This one dude just kills himself. Owned. Meanwhile, Peliquin delivers some exposition. Boone's apparently some magical chosen one that Peliquin created when he bit him. This raises several questions. How much does Peliquin know, and when did he know it? If he knew someone he bit was going to destroy Midian, wouldn't he just stop biting people? Did the wall tell him he needed to bite people? Did the wall tell him he had to watch the Beverly Hillbillies?
Quite a dance, huh? Death everywhere and you and me in the middle.
Oh no, Decker's killed Narcissi, and now he looks to do the same for Boone. The two of them trade barbs, and then they have an epic scaffold fight not seen since Donkey Kong Country. How is this in the game? Well, more of the same.
Hang on, gang. I gotta take this. Hello, Game Grave. I'm kind of in the middle of something.
Hi, Chris. It's me, Decker. I was wondering if you wanted to come up and maybe shoot a poorly choreographed fight scene with me. You know, you can chase me around a rope bridge and make crude insults at my expense. A lazy homage to the film and video game you're reviewing.
I don't know, Doc. I don't really feel up for it. That's kind of not my bag, you know? It's not my style. I mean, what do I look like to you, the angry video game nerd?
No, he's thin and still has all his hair.
Ow. That was really mean.
I'm a sociopath. What did you expect? Speaking of video games, you should watch Existence. It's a spine-tingling suspense set in the world of virtual reality that critics are saying makes The Matrix look like child's play.
I guess I gotta be more careful with who I hire on Cameo. God, I hope it's not too late to get a refund from the Zodiac Killer.
Boone, currently impaled on one of Decker's machetes, grabs Decker and thrusts, holding him close while the blade penetrates him. Being a Freudian, I'm sure Decker would make some observation about the symbolism of Boone's actions if he didn't just get stabbed to death. Meanwhile in the game, Boone has saved the Nightbreed, including a green-haired woman, an alien, a somehow even more normal-looking woman, a man that cut himself shaving, and this dog that looks somewhat familiar.
I'm Charles. I grew up next door to you.
Oh, God!
Back in Movieland, Boone meets with Baphomet for the last time, and he is admonished for destroying their home and then instantly let off the hook because this was supposed to happen, it's prophecy, and this place kinda sucks.
You are no longer Boone. You are Cabal.
Boone is then charged with finding the geeks a new hang zone. Baphomet changes Boone's name to Cabal, hey, just like that book we were talking about, and the priest commits a party foul by spilling the ecto cooler. Laurie tells Cabal that she wants to be a monster like him, because life without him is unbearable. He refuses, so she dumps his ass. Well, she got over him really quick. Psych! She kills herself! This is beyond fucked up, honestly. Ladies, bros, non-binary folk, don't do this. I know this is a monster movie, but don't even toy with the idea of using attempted suicide to trap someone in a relationship, because it's not going to make your relationship any stronger. You know, I get this feeling that Laurie's going to post about this on the Am I the Asshole Reddit, and they are savagely going to take her down a peg. Basically, Boone has to bite Laurie and turn her into a Nightbreed or else she's going to die. Again, pity is a powerful weapon. He does, she dies anyway. Just kidding, haha, fooled you, happily ever after. Meanwhile, Eigerman is still alive, and he comes across the priest, who is now bald, therefore evil. The priest intends to get revenge for his fucked up face.
You fucked up my face.
And Eigerman begs him to take him along. The priest says no, and then skulks off to film pickups for Alien Nation. The Nightbreed are hunkering down in the Night Barn, and they say that one day Cabal, their new leader, will return for them, as Boone and Laurie pose on a soundstage and reenact the ending to The Secret of Monkey Island.
Yeah, at least I learned something from all this.
What's that?
Never pay more than $20 for a computer game.
Crossfade to a cave painting proving that not only did the Nightbreed foresee these events hundreds of years ago, but also predicted the leather jacket. Again, really accurate prophecies. So how did things go down in the game? You reach Baphomet and he says, oh cool, you win. That's it. Wow, what an ending. The game instructs you to insert disc 1 again so you can start over and try and beat your last time, I guess. Now, how did things go down in the theatrical cut of the film? Well, for starters, there's no suicide scene. Boone and Laurie are just gonna bum around Canada, work through some personal issues, and maybe one day get back to that whole prophecy thing. Luckily, Narcissi, who is still alive in this version, tells them he's just a phone call away if they ever want to spark up a fatty and see if the Wizard of Oz syncs up with Dark Side of the Moon. The priest uses the bubbling batter of Baphomet to revive his new god, that being the evil Decker, who teases a sequel. That is if he can find time in between shooting Naked Lunch, which he doesn't. Despite looking messed up, the priest actually gets off easy in both endings, unlike the book. The priest actually has his arms, legs, and penis blown clean off his body by Baphomet. He's reduced to a madman, tormented by psychic visions. Eigerman, who is also alive, becomes the priest's caretaker, and he decides to use his newfound abilities to one day enact his revenge on Boone and the Breed. Just like in the movie, the incident that causes Baphomet to melt the priest into a monster from a Harlan Ellison story is Boone being rechristened to Cabal, although it's a bit more intense.
Instead of just getting a lecture and a light show, Boone is filled with this intense power that fundamentally changes his very essence and very being. And then he comes in Baphomet's face.
His entire body rose to it, gaze, spittle, and prick. His heart began to beat, healing its damaged wing with its first throb. His congealed blood liquefied like a saint's relic and began to run. His testicles tightened, sperm ran up his cock. He ejaculated into the flame, pearls of semen carried up past his eyes to touch the baptizer's face.
There's a lot of cum in this book. I assume the extra hour of footage in the extended cut is a combination of Boone driving around or coming, maybe both at the same time.
Baphomet, what I wouldn't give to have a way of subtly and gracefully segueing into a segment where we don't have to talk about cum.
French bread pizza, because nobody knows pizza like the French.
Game Ghoul, that's obviously a shoe that you're, and you don't care. You're just, damn, you're really going at it, huh? Did you want to talk about a video game, maybe? You want to do your Game Ghoul segment?
Oh yeah! I want to talk about Helicopter Island for the MF Dog computer system. You play as Rescue Chopper 1, and your boss is giving you jurisdiction over the whole island in this action-packed, open-world aviation adventure.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It's your job to smash your helicopter into the sides of buildings until they catch fire, and everyone starts screaming, and the people on TV call you a murderer.
And that's how you're supposed to play?
I mean, that's how I play it.
Okay, back to Nightbreed, I guess.
Okay.
So what do I think of Nightbreed the Interactive Movie? Well,
look, I'm not going to tell you that playing this game was the most unpleasant experience in my life. Because if you remember at the beginning of this video, I told you that my best friend died. This game is up there, though.
But I have to say, this game is absolutely nothing. It's a collection of stills joined together by a kids' meal menu. You need to have seen the movie to understand anything in this interactive movie, and the only gameplay this game has is shoehorned in the last moments of the game in the form of an embarrassing knockoff of Dark Castle. But all of that being said, I can't hate it. Why? Because Zora would have loved this.
Zora was an artist, and she loved nothing better than drawing pictures of monsters. And even though the monsters were often horrific, many times they had this kind of whimsical or playful edge to them. I think she would have loved seeing a game adapt certain characters and scenes from this movie into this colorful pixel art. It would have tickled her pink, even if she, or more realistically I, had to suffer to see them.
Imagine loving a weird cult classic film only to find out years later there was a video game you never heard of, and it looked and played like a parody of itself. For example, no matter how poorly it played, I would move heaven and earth to be able to play a point-and-click adventure based off of Repo Man.
Suppose you're thinking about a plate of shrimp. Suddenly somebody will say like plate or shrimp or plate of shrimp out of the blue, no explanation. No point in looking for one either. It's all part of a cosmic unconsciousness.
Zora was the type of person that liked what she liked, unapologetically so. Even if you argued with her on every facet of something being bad, and she had no response, she would still shrug and say, well, I like it. It infuriated me when I argued with her, but I loved her for that. And I know exactly how things would have gone down if Zora was still with us. She wouldn't have played Nightbreed the Interactive Movie. She would have convinced me to make an episode of Gamegrave based on it just so she could look at the cool pictures. So that's why I did this.
And I will say one positive thing about Nightbreed the Interactive Movie. It was way ahead of its time, because nowadays, almost every movie is interactive.
Barry had resolved never to see Nora again. But such resolutions, though they may be steadfastly held for a whole week, are abandoned in a few moments of bleak despair.
So, what do I think of Nightbreed the movie, specifically the director's cut?
At first, I didn't really like it all that much. Honestly, I would even make fun of Zora for liking it. I'm kind of a dick that way. I didn't come around to the film until maybe the third time viewing it. If you're wondering, I've seen the movie 6 times in preparation of this video. It'll be closer to 9, maybe even 10 once I edit everything together.
Mostly my problems are with the pacing of the film and its focus. It spends way too much time backtracking, too much time in the real world, not in the fantastical realm of Midian, and it really could have tried to make some of the Nightbreed more endearing and likable other than Babette and Rachel. Narcissi is funny, but he's also kind of a sex pest. This dude eats people and quotes bad TV shows, and now that I think about it, that joke from earlier, could we consider that a racist joke? Now, I'm not saying I'd be one of these farmers with a pitchfork or Raggedy Andre Chikatilo, but I never got why people empathized with the monsters so heavily. They're a bunch of freaks living underground.
So I had to ask myself when I first saw this movie, why is it that certain people really like it and it just doesn't click with me? Well, it's because I'm not queer. Being LGBTQ like Zora was, a trans woman, or how Clive Barker is a gay man, or how the majority of the people in my Discord server are, it's a lot like being a resident of Midian. You are forced to go to someplace secret, someplace underground, someplace down low, a place that these so-called normal people don't know about lest they come in thumping their Bibles. Midian could very well be a metaphor for gay nightclubs or gay districts of town, especially ones that had to operate in secret when being queer was still illegal in the Western world. You're also different, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, fluid, moon-headed. But you come together because you share the factor that these so-called naturals all consider you to be unnatural. Monsters. You had to create your own society within society, a culture beneath our culture that has its own language, music, art, and fashion. It's so wild and unique, yet it belongs to this collective, and you live your lives despite, or maybe in spite, of what these surface dwellers think of you. And sure, There's some infighting in Midian. They don't always get along. They don't always see eye to eye. But at the end of the day, they know they have to make it work. And when so-called normal people perpetrate great violence against these so-called monsters, queer people are able to band together and watch each other's backs. To quote Baphomet from the book, "You are Cabal, an alliance of many." And you know, there are even people out there who never knew they were a monster. They grew up thinking they were just a surface dweller like everyone else. Some of them never even knew monsters existed. But they had this feeling they were different. And despite what some shitty therapist tells them, they one day decide to embrace their inner beast and go live underground in a graveyard where they can be as gay as they want to be. I guess it's time for me to drop the act and let out the worst kept secret that I'm sure 5 people online are going to care about. My name is Chris Vaughn, and I am a bicycle. Bisexual. I'm a I don't know why I keep saying bicycle. This is like the 8th time. Can we just cut around it? Like ADR, just fix it in post?
Yeah. I don't know how to use editing software.
Yeah, you probably guessed this based on the fact that I've been suppressing a pretty heavy lisp through all of my voiceover. Because of Zora, I realized I was more like the Nightbreed than I imagined. However, I wouldn't be this hunky James Hurley stand-in. I'd probably be this dude right here. Yeah. This is also how I lost my hair. I've always felt vaguely queer, but I didn't say anything in my youth because I grew up in a time and a place where being different got you an ass whooping. However, being closeted didn't stop kids from picking up on certain things and calling me fat. As an adult, I stayed closeted, not because of conservatives. I don't give a shit what they think about me. I already hate their fucking guts for everything else. But honestly, I stayed closeted because I didn't feel queer enough. Bi-erasure is a hell of a thing. It's really real, and it makes you second guess yourself at every turn in your life. Zora was a big reason why I got in touch with my feelings. She was one of the only people I ever confided to about this side of myself. And she didn't lecture me. She just listened and understood. She helped me the way she helped so many other people in life. Zora's patience, her ability to understand, and her ability to forgive were limitless. During her funeral, Zora's mom said that Zora was the most Christ-like person she ever knew. I can't disagree with that. I want to take this time to officially come out in a way that I think Zora would have really liked. I've been a lifetime on deposit, and that's a long time in the closet. And if you say to me, how was it? It was hard taking that heartbreaking, godforsaken route. But I'm breaking out. So now that I'm out of the closet, I hope that means I get a free pass to Midian to take part in some of that graveyard smashing I've heard so much about. Oh right, it burned down. Well, maybe me and the monsters can meet at Dave & Buster's. Is that a queer thing or a monster thing? Dave & Buster's? I haven't been a queer monster that long. By the way, when I keep referring to queer folk as monsters, I'm doing it in an endearing way, because Nightbreed teaches us these so-called normal people are the real monsters, and the monsters are swell folk that maybe like Oingo Boingo a little too much. Oingo Boingo. Damn it, see, if I would have noticed that on my first viewing, I would have caught onto the subtext right away. You always read the credits. You always go to IMDb when you make a video. I guess I'm just stupid. Now, am I saying the Nightbreed are 100% a queer allegory and can only be interpreted as such? No, I'm not actually. In fact, the Nightbreed can be a great stand-in for almost any person who is a other in Western society. Don't believe me? Well then take Boone's word for it.
People who were on the fringes of society, well, even today somewhat. A black man in a white society, a gay man in a heterosexual society. You're an outcast, and all the outcasts move in and live together beneath this graveyard, which is sounds like a pretty good party.
But what I am saying is some queer folk love this movie because they can so easily see themselves as the Nightbreed. Now, I can't talk for anyone except for queer folk and autistic people, but I think the queer interpretation is the one that makes the most sense, and I don't think Clive Barker would chastise me for believing this, considering the man once said this.
And it is. It's a, the Nightbreed represent the need to and the urge to create, to be different, the need to be different, the appetite to be different. Not just the enforced necessity because you were born that way, though I was born this way. I was born to make art and suck cock, but
Now, much has been said for the Nightbreed being a stand-in for victims of racism, homophobia, transphobia, and ableism, but there's one group that I kind of want to throw in there myself, and that's sex workers. Okay, so sound off your hot take alarm, but I think the reason why I gravitate towards this opinion is because of the inclusion of a serial killer in the narrative. If you're a fan of the true crime genre, whether it's in book or podcast form, you've probably heard the term the less dead. It's coldly used to describe people that law enforcement don't deem necessary to investigate when they're found murdered. This historically includes poorer people of color, queer folk, sex workers, and a combination of the three. Serial killers purposely target sex workers because they have a smaller chance of getting caught, and also they can morally justify their actions. They're given permission by law enforcement through an action and by God through twisted interpretation to revel in their brutality. In more ways than one, the less dead, in name and function, resemble the undead in this and other stories. Now, if this point seems shoehorned into this video, that's because it is. I actually wrote this part of the video last. None of this occurred to me until I learned that Clive Barker himself, at one point in his life, was a sex worker. Well, now that we know who the Nightbreed are, you're probably wondering who the cops, therapist, and priest represent. Well, they represent cops, therapists, and priests. I'm glad I could clear that up for you. By now, you'd probably accuse me of having an anti-psychiatrist agenda, like I'm L. Ron Hubbard or something. And I need to make this clear, the vast majority of people in the psychiatric field are there to help people. I believe that getting help is important. But it wasn't so long ago that many people in the mental health field considered being queer in one way or another a mental illness. And sadly, some of those types are still around to this day. You'll hear about things like conversion therapy, which oftentimes leads to suicide amongst the people these so-called therapists are trying to help. So if you are a queer person and you are looking for mental help, please make sure the person you're reaching out to is LGBTQ friendly. It's normally stated somewhere on their website if they have one, but if you ever find yourself in doubt, just ask them. You can find out these people's beliefs normally within 1 or 2 conversations. Just remember, being queer isn't the source of your trauma, it's who you are. There's no cure for being queer, nor should there be one, and nor should you seek it. So that was Nightbreed. A little bit silly, yes, a little bit goofy, and maybe a little heavy-handed at times. But I wanted to make an episode that Zora would have liked. That was the whole point. My one regret is I made this after she was gone. You happen to be a creative person and you have people in your life that you care about. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Do something special for them now. A Nightbreed video, I don't know, maybe that seems like it's not that special to most people, but despite being a old monster movie most people have never heard of, it's something very important to me because it was very important to Zora. The things that we love, whether it be the media we consume, the art we observe, or even the baubles we collect, they're all a part of us. And maybe that sounds materialistic, but they do inform our personality, and we do assign meaning to them. And when we eventually pass on, we haunt those things for our loved ones. Memories of those we have lost will always be tied to certain songs, movies, books, and yeah, video games as well. I know I'm gonna ruin Earthbound for a few people when I pass away. Now, Zora also really liked Earthbound, but I didn't do a video on that because I feel like it belongs to too many people, whereas Nightbreed is just our thing. It's more personal to me. But I do remember one of the first times I hung out with Zora, I was really excited because she had a Mr. Saturn sticker on the back of her car. I was actually in the middle of replaying Earthbound when Zora was hospitalized, and I couldn't pick it up for quite some time after she was gone. When I finally got back to it and I beat the game for the 10th or 11th time in my life, well, there's a part at the end. It's actually right before the words, "the end."
I miss you.
I miss Zora. When I got to that part in the game, I wept. I knew it was coming, but only for a few seconds. I totally forgot about it until the credits were rolling. Like I said, I've played the game 10 or 11 times before. But in a weird way, I still kind of felt like that scene was made for me to say goodbye to her. Even though the game came out when I was 11. Memories of Zora will always be tied to that silly Nintendo game, just like there always will be memories tied to this stupid monster movie I talked about for an hour. Memories of her will be tied to Sisters of Mercy, Roy Orbison, Deadly Friend, Warriors of Virtue, BBC's Ghostwatch, which, by the way, Lister's in that, so add that to the board. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to pick up a 20-sided dice ever again without thinking about Zora and her dwarf that talked to rocks or her robot security guard that wanted to be a clown. It's ultimately up to us to decide how these memories will affect us. At first, it'll be a grim reminder of your loss, but hopefully in time, you'll be able to experience those memories with a sense of fondness. Months ago, I would have watched this movie and I would have said, I wish she was here. But now, I feel comfortable in saying, I'm glad she was here. For a briefer time than anyone would have liked, yes, but my life and the life of everyone she knew is better for knowing her. Her gentleness and her kind nature enriched our lives, and that doesn't go away because she's dead. I'm just glad that I got to know her. There are other movies that make me remember Zora, and there are movies that I know that she liked more. But as I've said before, in a weird way, this was our movie. And in a weird way, we were Nightbreed. And I would like nothing more than to meet Zora one day in Midian, even if it's dark and damp and obviously a set made out of plaster. Just her being there will be enough for me. In the book Cabal, when Laurie is first exploring the graveyard, still wrought with grief over the apparent death of Boone, she says this to Cheryl Ann. How can he be so irretrievable? There should be some way we could reach, don't you think? Some way to reach and touch them. Who? The dead. Otherwise, it's all nonsense, isn't it? It's all sadistic nonsense. Well, Zora isn't irretrievable. All I have to do is pop in a movie, and there she is. So I hope you enjoyed this weird episode. I made it for a friend. And somehow I hope she enjoyed it too. And Zora, if you can somehow hear me from beyond, knock twice if you want me to review From Beyond, the 1986 Stuart Gordon film. Oh, and also know that we love you and we miss you. Uh-oh, did you forget what we talked about at the start of the video? Let's see who among you was really paying attention as we look at which scenes were shot in what year. Every scene with Lai from Warriors of Virtue on the desk was shot in the year 2021. Every scene with Soon from Warriors of Virtue on the desk was shot in the year 2022. This random 5-second long clip from Gold Diggers of 1933 that was clearly left in due to an editing mistake? Well, that was shot in 1932. And finally, this scene right here, where I talk about the first Decker boss battle from Nightbreed the Interactive Movie, well, that was shot in the far-flung future of 2024. Good night, everybody. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, but I want to thank a few people for this episode. I want to thank Zora again. I know I made this entire video for her, but I just want to thank her for being in our lives, for coming over every week to watch movies or play video games with myself, my sister Julie, and our dear friend Graham. They were the best times of my life. And during the pandemic, thank you for always being one Discord call away to keep us all sane. We will always love you. One of Zora's last projects was working on this music video for the band Holly and the Mystery Lights. I was really proud of her for doing it, so please check out this link in the description below, or just search for it on YouTube. I want to thank my friend Graham. Graham is my oldest friend, and he stuck by me even though when he probably should have bailed by now. I had met Zora years before through our mutual friend Kyle, but I didn't really start hanging out with Zora until Graham invited the two of us to his birthday party at a bowling alley. And then after that, along with my sister Julie, we were pretty much inseparable. So I really need to thank Graham for pretty much introducing Zora into my life. Thanks to my mom for helping me make the Game Grave set and for the lion's share of the work on the puppets and costumes. Thanks to my dad for turning our garage into a studio for me to film in. Thanks to Ryan Probert for the amazing original music and for putting up with me even though you're a world-class, award-winning composer. Check out his band Prisoner Cinema in the link below. Shout out to Stephen Ray Garza for his amazing Helicopter Island artwork. I can't wait to see what you come up with next. Check out his work on social media. I want to thank my good friend Nico for streaming with me and from keeping me from walking away from making videos and quitting this stuff altogether. Jay Hunter of OSW Review for always having my back and inspiring me creatively. Thank you for your patience, my friend, and for always supporting my dumb hobby. Link to his channel below. I want to thank my friend and brother-in-law, Grizzly Adam, in the Discord. One of my hard drives died during the creation of this video, and he actually replaced it for me, and it saved this thing being delayed even more. I want to thank my partner, Casey. She's been taking care of me while I've been sick, and if it wasn't for her, this video wouldn't have made it out. Thanks to everyone in the Discord, Patreon, Twitch subs for keeping this channel alive. I know the wait was long, but hopefully it was worth it. Evelyn Kousis, Little Black Bow Timmy, Cathod Raygun, Minus Marcy, Grizzly Adam, Yam Tagler, Your Dad the Squid, Courier Jax, Sold Out Boy, Calder, Punch 65, Brain Milkshake, and OSW Review. Thanks to Bonnie, Chevrontain, Chicken Dog, Daniel Boo, Didi, Haj, Hex, Jodo, Kujaku DM, Miltonius Prime, Sam JF, Sapphic Storm, Snake Girl Sasha, Vern, Alan Trith, Audiovore, Black Air Force Cheerios, Blank Frank, Burrit Dukowski, Chronic Dumbass, Fizz vs. the World, Hell Knoll, Jarf, Kirby, Lightspeed, Linked, Melian Chains, Pineapple Jane, Rezi, Sam the VA Mod, Saren, Spiffy, Spyro Shark, Terror Van, Toasty Raincloud, Wolf Demoness Your Spooky November, J Hunter, Rainy Day Jules, Kumo, Zima Soem, and just thank you for everyone following me on YouTube, and it's just, I'm so glad that we get to share these videos together, and I hope
Hey, your friend Chris paid me to give you this very special message. Says here you like trains. That's cool. Says you also like Undertale. That's also really cool. Well, I'm outside your house. And I'm here to fucking kill you. Happy birthday.